3 or 7 a.m. The kind of time that doesn't belong to anyone. The kind of minute that slips between breaths and alarms and the last flicker of a hallway light. And tonight it belongs to apartment 1204. Hush now, listen. Somewhere behind a taped window, a bathroom fan hums to life. A red LED blinks like a tiny heartbeat. The elevator idles with its doors closed as if it knows better, and a tenant whose life has been painfully ordinary exhales, slow, shallow, unaware that something invisible has already crossed the room. Morning finds blue gloves and camera flashes, a smoke detector with its batteries quietly missing, a maintenance tag on the door stamped 8:42 p.m., and a detective running a finger under the rim of the cheap plastic detector as if the truth might be hiding where no one bothers to dust, while the clock over the kitchenette clicks past 9:01 and the tech murmurs, "Cherry red skin. This looks like carbon monoxide." And no one says what they're feeling because no one wants to be the first to break the quiet. The building manager stumbles over condolences. The neighbors talk through door chains. The elevator chimes and then forgets to. And by the second night, on a different floor, everything that felt like coincidence starts to feel like a pattern. 307 again, a sealed window again, the same little hum behind the bathroom door, the same absence of struggle, as if the victim simply drifted off and the air itself turned on them, and the detective, more awake now than coffee can make him, scribbles the time in a thin red circle and whispers into the radio, "Check elevator logs. I want the service key entries." Because buildings tell on the people who use them if you ask the right way. It takes a day for the whiteboard to grow into a map of floors and times and deliveries and faces that cameras can't quite hold still. 307, replicated like a fever chart. The same maintenance company name slipping through receipts. The same Wi-Fi smart switches appearing in units that never ordered them. Who changes a bathroom switch without telling the tenant? Who knows the kind of thing that turns a safe room into a trap? Who understands that a fan can be a hand tightening around a throat if the ducts run wrong? And in the lab, under flat white light, a tech shines a flashlight into an old utility shaft and finds a soot ring that shouldn't be there, a smear of fresh aluminum tape that doesn't belong, negative pressure diagrams scrawled beside a CO meter that spikes in the red the moment a fan somewhere else spins up, while a second tech says soft and tired, no smell, no color, no warning. If it's CO, by the time you feel it, you're already falling. And the detective looks at the printed settlement from 2 years ago, a CO incident swept tidily under the carpet of non-disclosure. A name of a victim whose obituary barely made, a corner of the local paper, a letter from a contractor who wrote complaints and lost his job anyway, and a sister's name underlined twice. The building manager's hands won't stop moving. The manager's eyes flick toward a framed photograph of the high-rise when it was new. Bright glass, tidy smiles. "We fixed it," he insists. "Vents were inspected, everything signed, off." And the detective does not say what he knows, that signatures can be clean while air is dirty, that a building can be legal and still lethal if someone understands its lungs better than the architect did. So they move in, quietly, a rented unit on floor 7, a toothbrush in the cup, and a blanket thrown over the couch, cameras tucked where no one notices. A carbon monoxide sensor the size of a coin blinking silently under the bathroom vanity. And they wait, lights off, boots off, masks ready, the city outside moving from midnight to something less than dawn. The elevator dinging once and then not again, and then, click, the bathroom fan switching on as if it has remembered an appointment, a small current of air pulling invisible, toward an invisible place, the sensor in the detective's pocket vibrating like a trapped bee, the number on the handheld meter climbing, 18 ppm, 35, 100, 200, eyes watering not from smoke but from something the blood can't carry, and the detective steadies his breath through a mask, counts 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi 3, notes the time, 3:04, because the fan begins early, but the decision to kill arrives on schedule, and when 3:07 lands, the meter screams. They follow a signal, up and out, a faint RF ping like a breadcrumb trail, into a stairwell that smells of oil and dust, up onto a rooftop where the city is a smear of sodium lamps and hard edges, and the wind tastes like cut pennies, and a service. Hatch rattles, tools clatter, a man in a work jacket pulls a door with a practiced wrist. A tablet strapped to his forearm shows a scheduler set to a single line, Euro 3007 daily cycle, while a canvas bag holds thin magnetic sheets cut in circles, a set of copied keys wrapped in cloth, a mouthguard someone wears when they expect to breathe bad things. And for a second, the suspect's eyes catch the skyline instead of the flashlights, and he turns, hard and fast, toward the motor room where machines drown the sound of footsteps. The cornering is ugly, a scuff on a shoulder and a wrench that lies where it falls. And when it's quiet again, the detective speaks not as a hunter, but as a man who knows about loss. Tell me why. And the answer is not a shout but a flattening, a voice that has been sanded down by time and anger. Because the building killed her, and they paid to make it disappear, he says. Because they wrote a check to pretend air doesn't kill, and you can't sue air. And he points with his chin at the city below. I close the flue, just a sheet of magnet on the collar where no one checks. I trigger the bathroom fan from the switch I swapped. The negative pressure drinks the A, exhaust like a thirsty thing, and pulls it into the bedroom. No broken locks, no forced entry, no one's fingerprints but the building's. And he almost smiles, tired and slight. And at 3:07, no one clears their throat, no one cooks, no one showers, no one opens a door to stir the air. At 3:07, the quiet cooperates. Paperwork fills in like rain after drought. Copied service key logged on a camera that never realized the light sensor was tripped. Elevator service mode at 2:58. Tool marks where flues should have been clean. Soot where no soot belongs. Wi-Fi switches that look legitimate but chatter on a private network. A script hardly a dozen lines long and deadly as a live wire. While the building, for the first time in years, has its breath tested, its ducts mapped, its excuses stripped, to drywall and the manager, looking older in daylight, signs forms he should have seen 2 years ago, orders detectors that should have been there 2 years ago, calls tenants he should have been able to protect 2 years ago. Interviews roll like tide. The doorman who thought the gate looked familiar but didn't want to say the wrong thing. The neighbor who heard just the fan and turned over and slept. The previous contractor who shows a pile of unanswered complaints stamped received and never read. And through it all, the detective keeps returning to the whiteboard with the red circles and the single
Not a
number
superstition,
that stitched
but a
everything
system.
together. Not a haunting, but a method. A time chosen because it slips inside routine like a blade inside silk. In court, the defense tries to make the invisible sound uncertain. Air, pressure, gas, vector, words that fog up a room. But numbers and timelines and signals have a way of making fog behave. And when the handheld meter sings in a demonstration chamber and the small fan yanks poison where it shouldn't go, even the jury leans back as if air has weight today, and the suspect, who never denies his script, only shakes his head at the sentence and says without heat, "You're fixing it now. Good." Because revenge was never going to be reparative. It was only ever going to be symmetrical. When it's over, truly over, the building breathes again the way a swimmer finally breaks surface. With a ragged cough and a resolve to never slip under that long again. Brand new detectors stud the ceilings like patient stars. Flues gleam. Windows lose their tape. Tenants learn the sound of a fan and the meaning of a beep. And the detective, on a last quiet walk through the hours between midnight and morning, touches the elevator panel the way you might pat a horse. A small thanks to the machine that held still while bone and blood learned to read time. And if you stand outside on the sidewalk at 3:06, you can feel it. The city holding its breath for the minute that doesn't belong to anyone. And then 3:07 comes and goes without a flicker. Nothing dies. No hum that isn't supposed to. No red circle on a whiteboard, waiting to be drawn. Just the ordinary hush of sleeping people and the long, unremarkable exhale of a place that has finally learned what it means to keep breathing. And somewhere across town, a woman who once lost a sister wakes, sits up as if someone called her name, opens the window a few inches to dawn air that smells like wet concrete and bakery steam, and doesn't know why it feels lighter, why it feels kinder, why it feels safe to close her eyes again, only that it does, and that the minute no longer belongs to a building or a script or a grievance, it belongs to her breathing and to all of them, to the detective walking home, to the tenants who slept through everything, to the sound of nothing terrible happening, and to the promise, quiet but firm, that a single number on a clock is no longer a sentence but merely a time. Another tick in a night that will, as nights do, end. And if you listen closely, not to the fan, but to the silence after, you can almost hear what the case taught everyone involved. That monsters don't always knock. They don't always carry knives. Sometimes they travel in blueprints and budgets, and the shortcuts we rename temporary. Sometimes they hide in air and wait for a minute with no witnesses. But the truth, once it finds the right duct, moves just as quietly, just as surely. And when it arrives, it changes everything. Not with thunder, not with shouts, but with a small red light that blinks for the right reason, a door that no longer needs tape, and a building that at last chooses life.